Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast, the industry's first and longest running podcast, now in our 17th year. I'm Roger Gross, the publisher of GGB, and this week we sit down with Richard St. Jean, the Chief Operating Officer for the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa in California, explaining how the renovations and expansion of its property has turned out. The GGB Podcast is sponsored by IGT. Give your players what they came for with IGT's top-performing themes featuring the biggest jackpots. IGT's wide area progressives draw a crowd on every casino floor. Visit IGT.com for more information. Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast. My guest today is Richard St. Jean, the General Manager at the Morongo Casino outside of Palm Springs. And we also have Simon Farmer, the Executive Director of Marketing for the property. Guys, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having us, Roger.
Great. So why don't we go back to the time when you joined the property, Richard? You arrived about halfway through the renovation process. Was that right?
Yes, here, Roger. I got here in Q4 of 2019. So I'd say it was about 50%, maybe 60% completed.
Okay.
So the renovation of the existing casino space was materially underway.
Okay.
But we had a long ways to go in the large expansion that we were adding.
Sure. Did you have any influence in the design and the operations of the process there?
In the main casino, I think the program was pretty much baked.
Yeah.
But as we got into the expanded area, keeping in mind 65,000 square feet, we had lots of opportunities to really improve the connectivity, sight lines, circulation, expand some elements back there. But as far as the box itself, that remained pretty much the same.
Okay, great. So you got there right before COVID, huh? That must have been a little disappointing for you to do that.
Well, I came out of retirement after going on 2 years, and I told my wife I do not want to open a property. I've done enough of those.
Right.
So I didn't realize I knew I was coming into the renovation and expansion, which is, I enjoy those projects. But then, learning about COVID and that starting to percolate, that was, opportunity number one. Then suddenly and abruptly closing down, formulating a plan. We probably worked harder when we were down trying to formulate the plan for reopening.
Sure.
And then if I remember correctly, we opened with about 5 days notice. And we were also first to market of the significant casinos in the LA area. So it was like New Year's every single day post-opening.
I'll bet. And you got all your employees back, hopefully.
We really didn't know, Roger, how robust business was going to be.
Right.
So we hedged on maybe we'll be a little more conservative and, continue to ramp up if necessary. And it was total opposite. We opened with about 1,700 team members. We could have had 2,500. So,
yeah.
and we had all decks on hand and we made it happen, but it certainly wasn't without a lot of pain.
Yes. I remember those days. It was very difficult to operate in those days, and with all the restrictions as well on top of just the normal operation. So, but you've done fine since then. Obviously, the business has come back and it's booming.
We were thrilled with our overall performance for 2020. We were relatively flat, even after being closed for 2.5 months compared to 19. So we really closed the gap, and the team really just pulled off. As I tell them, they moved mountains and pulled off miracles. So it was a pretty strong way to end the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So explain how the resort has changed with the renovations and new food and beverage outlets and then larger casino.
Ken Useko did an incredible job with the designs and really modernizing the facility. It was, well overdue. So that was one thing. And then it started with, I think, restaurants first, moved into the main casino. And then obviously they wanted to tie it in. So it looked, it wasn't, too different from the new expansion. So the renovation among itself, just in the casino and the expansion, were spectacular. And then we added just a couple monsters bar, one being the Splash Bar in the expansion, the other being Crystal Hearts in the heart of the casino, which I think prior to the renovation, it was largely enclosed. So
right.
Much like some of the more properties now, it's a wide open space, lounge seating, beautiful bar, table games. So that really became the focal point. And then you augment that with Good Times Cafe, which is just kind of a modernist, kind of cool, hip vibe feel for our typical daily diners. Asian American Grill, which is a full service Asian offering that is, again, both contiguous to this area. So those were really some of the big ones. And then at the far end of the expansion, we started what was kind of an unmanned sidelines bar. And we decided to expand that shortly after opening and brought in Wahlburgers. And that relationship between our bar and their restaurant's been terrific.
Right. Yeah, I've seen Wahlburgers in a couple of casino environments, and they seem to do very well there. It's worked out for you then.
We're thrilled.
Great. So how about the hotel rooms? I understand they were renovated as well.
We renovated the hotel rooms, the suites, the casinos, the cabanas. So really the entire property has a new feel, and then in conjunction with that, really starting to deploy technology. So that's coming along slower than I would have hoped. But beautiful TVs, the series, we'll have the electronic keys in place. So really catching up with properties that I think were definitely ahead of us.
Great. And I stayed in the suite when I was there at one time, and the suites were beautiful even before that. And of course, the view is spectacular there. We
definitely capitalized on the view, and I'm very pleased with how the suites turned out. We've pivoted a few times relative to design because they're not large suites, but I think we landed right where we need to for our customers.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely a unique customer. So do you have a buffet?
We did.
Yes, I know you did.
And I think this is probably one of our favorite stories for today. Our buffet was very dated. And then obviously with the onset of COVID, a lot of discussions about the buffets come back. And we had already been in concept discussions with a number of people on what this could look like going forward. And we looked at numerous iterations and what it could be, what it should be. And we started taking inspiration from places like Faneuil Hall in Boston or Food Life in Chicago and Ferry Building in San Francisco. And the list goes on, Liberty Station. We like that urban look and feel, still kind of modern, but, transports you from Cabazon, California to literally any state or city around the country. But then our customers told us quite succinctly they wanted a quality product at a reasonable price that was fairly quick. So this concept, it starts with at the very entrance, something that resembles the oyster bar that at Palace Station.
Right.
Which a handful of us built 20 plus years ago and wildly successful. So we started with that inspiration out front, a la carte offering to attract people, get that smell, as I say, wafting into the casino. And then from there, it's a one price, for the rest of the venue, for the marketplace. So we didn't want to get away from the current customer mentality about still wanting that buffet. But the difference is that at these multiple stations, it's tapas style restaurant quality food that we hand to you. So portion controlled, but great quality. We have Chef Fabio here today, and with Misimo, his executive chef, and they've been working on this menu for months. And I think that's what's really going to transport it from what was a typical buffet to something that's incredibly unique. And I think it's going to be very, very successful.
Sure. So Simon, Richard just mentioned the Asian restaurant. I know you've got a great Asian clientele there. How have they responded to the new restaurant?
Well, Mozen is an operation that is run by a group called Drive This Entertainment, and we've been partners at Morongo with Drive This for many years. They're based in Las Vegas. They've been good partners with us, and obviously when we were looking to remodel the space, we had to be very cognizant about what our guests, what our clientele continue to look for. And to your point, we're in an area in the Southern California market where nearly, and this is factual, nearly all zip codes within our region are within the top 10 to 20% in terms of Asian population in the entire country. That's obviously a very important cultural touch point for us. as far as the guests are concerned. And of course, we want to make sure that we have the amenities that will serve those guests. So we're obviously, very, very invested in making sure that we take care of those needs. And Mosen has been an amenity that that we continue to work on. We're always looking at the recipes. We're always trying to reinvent and make sure that we have the highest level of quality that they're asking for, because the tastes of that cultural clientele, they aren't necessarily the same as what the average guest may otherwise be looking for in a restaurant. And likewise, I think Richard kind of touched on a point about the marketplace when it comes to speed of service and what kind of food that they're looking for. It's like we need to make sure that we have an amenity that's well balanced with a with both kind of quick serve capability as well as full service family style dining capability. Right. And those are some of those elements that were built into Mosen to really cater to that guest.
Sure. How about, a lot of people lump Asians into one group, but obviously there's a lot of subgroup. There's a Chinese, Vietnamese, Philippine. How do you differentiate between each of those groups?
Well, we obviously have a big market to play in with all those groups incredibly well represented. We cater to those guests in a number of different ways, whether it's through, again, that food and beverage amenity, whether it's through our entertainment offerings that we've been working diligently to bring back online to help reintroduce those guests to the market, all the way to our hosting teams where we have hosts that are of those nationalities that are ready to serve our Chinese clientele, our Korean clientele, and so on. We stay very much on top of the analytics for each of those groups to kind of see how they're acting and reacting to different things. And it's actually interesting, looking at that clientele. I mentioned bringing things back online. When the pandemic really took hold, one of those things that we noticed pretty immediately was that the Asian clientele had a little bit more of a pronounced drop off than the rest of Morongo's clientele, especially early on. I think we contribute a lot of that to what was happening in what was happening in media, what was happening in terms of speculation on the origins of COVID, the communities from which it originated, and we saw as a result, our Asian play shift pretty considerably, and it stayed a little bit off pace relative to everything else coming back on track up until recently, when we've started to see that guests start to reintroduce themselves into the market. And so we've been working to recognize that. We've been working to reach back out. There's some business challenges there that are still lingering as a result of COVID. Entertainment, which I just mentioned, right, is a nice operative example of that. You still don't have a lot of these acts from overseas that are traveling to the United States. So the offerings there are limited. We just need to make sure that through other mechanisms, like we've been doing, for example, through our database and database marketing, that we're reaching out to that guest still in different ways in order to get them back into Morongo.
Right. Okay, great. So Richard, you just announced yesterday a new poker room and a new bingo room at the old, the original casino, now called Casino Morongo. Tell us about what those are going to bring to your property.
Well, Roger, when that property was opened, as we began construction originally, it was with a pure intent of supply and demand for construction disruption. And the place did better than we expected. Mm-hmm. And we kept it open, particularly with the demand that we had post-opening from COVID. So as a COO, I'm tasked with keeping projects in the pipeline, and we have a number of them, Marketplace being one, bringing in Wahlburgers, a couple new food court tenants. But, there was consideration back years ago about putting bingo and poker back there, frees up a key spot that we were using temporarily here. So we jumped in with both feet, and we came up with a design, the right size program, and it's really created a full service property. It was just packed yesterday, packed again today. You've got a nice, it's got a smoking element to the casino, not in the other areas, but non-smoking, smoking, mm-hmm. Great little bar, a great cafe style restaurant, a brand new bingo poker We're looking at RV parking. We know we have a pretty good amount of truck parkers. So it really, if you take Wild Wild West in Las Vegas and fast forward that several years, it's becoming a full service complementary property that's really intended for a different clientele.
Right. So you got a lot of people in that property during the construction. Have they stayed there? These people that are like that property? We
do a good job of segregating and really keeping it away from the guests. And there was a large butler building, if you will, which the original casino on the backside of the existing operating casino. So we just encroached on that space. So it was really a pretty short-term duration build. But again, looks like a brand new facility. So we are really, really excited about the potential that has. And I think too that our tribal members and elders, they love playing there. They grew up there to a degree.
Right. Sure.
So I heard they're back in hordes today. So that I think that was almost creating that amenity that I think takes them back to some of the roots as well.
Sure. Non-stop thrills meet massive jackpots. IGT's wide area progressives draw a crowd on every floor with the well-known brands like Wheel of Fortune slots and Megabucks. IGT's newest game, Money Mania, is based off player favorites Cleopatra and Pharaoh's Fortune. Money Mania brings the excitement with a fast-hitting wide area progressive jackpot. Give your players what they came for with the top-performing themes featuring the biggest jackpots. Visit IGT.com for more details. So how about you're located across the street from a outlet mall? Does that being adjacent to shopping like that, does that attract customers to you?
Absolutely. I think it gives them one more reason to come to Cabazon. We'll get one of the couples gambling while the other one's shopping. We've really just gotten into, in the last year or so, doing boutique benefits for our players. So actually opening the stores after hours and doing, shopping parties, and they have gone over wildly successfully. So it's now given us just now the other shops that weren't really necessarily involved to really see the true value to, cross brand with Morongo. So I think we've made tremendous progress there in the last year and a half.
Sure. So, competition in Southern California is really fierce. I ran into a GM from another Palm Springs property who was just beaming about his new addition to the property. So they're all adding amenities and things like that. So what does it take to be successful in that region?
Well, I think the properties in Palm Springs really cater to that region.
Right.
More so than we would. We have some penetration there, but not the volumes that they have at their three properties. We really look at our market as being us, San Manuel, and Pechanga, kind of owning that LA market. Yeah. And I think we all play nice in the sandbox. It's not hard for someone to just crush you with some free slot play. And, all three of us are doing very, very well. So to start creating that internal inflation and doing what other properties years ago used to do, and just, before you do it, it's just costing you more money to do the same business. So our peers within California, there are upwards of 20 plus of us that have been communicating since before COVID, trading best practices,
right,
and so on and so forth. So really just understanding where everybody is and, kind of playing nice in the sandbox. I think we all win.
Sure. Well, your property is located immediately off of the interstate, whereas some of the others, I know Pechanga and Morongo, in San Manuel, what do they call it? Yamava now, right? You have to drive a little bit off the interstate to get there, but so that give you an advantage that boom, you get off the exit and you're in the casino.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we have the new travel center we just opened up several months ago. So now I've got two, and that creates good connectivity to our small casino. So there's no doubt that access, I believe it's $145,000 or 145,000 cars a day.
Yeah. Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, which is just a huge number. And especially with periods where we know we'll see the backup, whether it's going to the desert on Friday or coming back on Sunday, we think we get some ancillary time from people that just don't want to sit in their car for 3 or 4 hours. So definitely benefit from the location.
If I may add, just having that recognizability is a huge piece for us. Because going back to the last question about how we stay competitive, and as much as we love our location off the 10 freeway, and we love this generally central location between Los Angeles and Palm Springs, it's important for us as operators to remember that while we have access to those markets, we aren't necessarily in those markets.
Right.
So being able to maintain, and we do this through media, we do these through the mailbox, being able to really maintain that recognition is incredibly important to us, because we compete a lot here on experience. That's above and beyond.
Right.
All else, what we try to build and establish and develop for our guests, because we want to be synonymous, just like our campaigns say, with a good time. That's the category we exist in, above and beyond just slots, tables, casino, what have you. We want these markets to know that if they're looking to have some fun, they're looking to break out of the troubles of life, if you will, that the Morongo is the place to go, the place that they've seen driving by the freeway many times. Right. That's the place they want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you get most of your clientele from the West?
Oh, yes, without a doubt. And the better part of 96% of our business actually comes from the West.
Okay, that makes sense. So about your meetings and conventions business, as I said, we held a conference there a few years ago, and it was a great space. Is that coming back now as well?
Slowly but surely, and I'll tell you why. We don't have a lot of rooms. We have 310 rooms, but the booking window here that used to be a day to two or three out is now 2 weeks, because whether people are going to Las Vegas or other destinations, the cost of gas, all of these different things, we're full all the time. So it's very hard to just grab that big block of rooms. We are looking at, having more rooms. That's about as much as I can tell you at this point, but that's definitely ways down the road. But I expect those patterns to change in time. But right now we're just full all the time. To try and dilute it with convention guests could be challenging.
Yeah, that's true for sure. So there's a referendum coming up later this year on sports betting in California, limiting it to the tribes and I guess the racetracks as well. Do you have an area designated in your casino for that sports book if indeed it goes through?
Yeah, Roger, there's a ton of chatter about these measures and which direction they can go, brick and mortar, online. We have identified a space that we think is spectacular. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that prompt us to move our poker room and kind of plan for this when it comes to fruition. Now, with a number of competing measures, they could blow up simultaneously too. So if you look back at Prop 5 and other things, so we have a space ready to go. Right. And if it doesn't come to fruition this year, we'll, I'm sure, find something to do with it temporarily. Right.
So are you talking to some potential sports betting partners in terms of, if mobile goes through, obviously you need more technology there?
I'd say that's really for the powers to be, because they're really talking about how much of that wants to be controlled in state versus out of state. Sure. So that's a tricky one to answer.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. So, Robert Smith, who's a legend in tribal gaming, one of the original pioneers in tribal gaming, recently retired as chairman of the tribe. Who was elected to succeed him, and what has your relationship been with him so far?
So Chairman Robert Martin retired. Super guy. You could see why.
I've met him. He's a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, charismatic, smart. Love to motivate. Just a super guy. So. He opted to retire, and Charles Martin, different family, ran for tribal council. Very forward thinking, really looking. He's one giving me the COO lots of autonomy to bring projects to the table for consideration. Obviously, I'm not the owner to make the final decision on CapEx, but his sister Jeff Martin is also our assistant general manager. Okay. So we've really got a good collaborative team of leaders that can, we do the due diligence, we run the potential pro formas and ROIs, and I think collectively we say, hey, this is a good accretive amenity for the property. And there's been a little more of that movement, I think, in the time since the election. So I think you're going to see some good things coming down the pike.
Sure, and I'm good friends with James Siva, your vice chairman, who's a great guy as well.
And he's right in the middle of it. He asks all the really hard questions.
Yeah, so there's some great leadership there. I'm always interested in the second generation of leaders in tribal gaming, that they seem to be really plugged in and even a little bit more professional than the original guys, you know.
You know, what I would say is it's so humble because they're doing it for all the right reasons. You know, this has been passed on to this current generation, and they really want to perpetuate it, diversify it, so it's ready for the next. And the people you see getting involved on tribal council, the members, they definitely have this common core value of how are we going to perpetuate this, and that's been really, really impressive to watch.
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, we just completed putting together our Tribal Government Gaming magazine, our annual report on tribal gaming. And, you know, we had a couple of stories on the 35th anniversary of the Cabazon decision before the U.S. Supreme Court. And, you know, it could also be called the Morongo decision because the Morongo tribe was also involved in that suit at the Supreme Court. How important is that historical perspective to the tribe when you know, becoming a leader in the tribal gaming area?
You know, well, I think that was the pinnacle. It's what launched gaming, you know, back
Sure.
30 years ago. But to get up to the, you know, Supreme Court and to win,
Right.
I think for the tribal members, elders, and even some people on our council to this day that were very instrumental, they take tremendous pride in pulling that off. I mean, we see what happens in all other states, and it's a feat unto itself. So I think it's not only something they carry with them, but I think their future generations will tell that same story.
Sure. All of Indian country, I think, recognizes their leadership here. So that must be an important part of their image, certainly in the tribal gaming community.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on finishing the renovations and opening the new poker room and bingo hall. I mean, things are happening there, and I can't wait to hear your announcement about the new hotel rooms at some point.
Well, lots of moving parts, but we welcome you down. You don't live far, so if you'd like to come down and take a visit, we'd love to host you.
Oh, great. Next time we come down, we'll definitely do that. So thanks for the time, and we'll talk soon. Hope you enjoyed this week's podcast with thanks again to IGT. Give your players what they came for with IGT's top performing themes featuring the biggest jackpots. IGT's wide area progressives draw a crowd on every casino floor. Visit IGT.com for more information. To learn more about tribal gaming in California and beyond, visit GGBmagazine.com. Subscribe to GGB News to get all the news of the casino industry delivered to your desktop every Monday morning. Sign up at ggbnews.com and use the coupon code GGB180 for a free subscription. Don't miss a single episode of the podcast. Subscribe on Amazon, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify today. So we'll see you next time on the GGB Podcast.